You guys are tuned in to S&M Radio. I am Shanon.
And I am your favorite, or one of your favorite, Canadian horror movie reviewers, Mark.
Oh, you're giving it away. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert.
Oh, we had to start with a Canadian film for the new year.
That's right. First episode of 2016 means an old-ass Canadian-American horror movie.
From 1980.
When I was getting ready for this episode earlier today, I was like, oh, we're going to make podcasting history. We're going to talk about a 1980 horror movie starring the Queen of Horror. And my kids went, Elvira?
Close.
So I have my kids trained, which is good. No, Jamie Lee Curtis is the Queen of Horror.
Yes, she is. One of the most famous scream queens.
And we are talking about the 1980 horror movie, Terror Train.
And somehow we can link it to the movie we always talk about no matter what episode, Halloween. Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah, this is after her success in Halloween and Halloween blowing up so big. This is when all those copycat movies came out. I mean, there was a slasher movie every month, it seemed like, and you know, this is basically Halloween on a train.
And you know what's funny when you say that about that there was a slasher movie coming out every month. Oddly enough, Jamie Lee Curtis just so happened to be in a lot of those slasher movies to start off with.
Oh, yeah. That was one thing she talks about a lot if you see interviews with her, especially like when when somebody's asking her about Halloween, and she always gives good props to Halloween and says she liked being on it and she owes her career to it and all of that. But after Halloween, kind of got typecast into the Scream Queen category of actress, and so she followed Halloween up with The Fog, which was another horror movie by John Carpenter, and then she did Prom Night and Terror Train. And all three of those films, The Fog, Prom Night, and Terror Train, were all 1980. And then a year later, 1981, she returned as Laurie Strode in Halloween 2. And at that point after that, she kind of said, I can't do this anymore. I'm getting known as the Scream Queen, Horror Queen, and I want to start doing other stuff. But yeah, it's weird. I didn't realize that Terror Train came out the same year as Prom Night.
Prom Night, which we haven't talked about on this show yet anyway. But like you said before, Prom Night is essentially Halloween at the prom.
A Halloween at the prom, yep.
But then the other thing with Jamie Lee Curtis, which I think we might have touched on before, so once, as soon as she got done with Halloween 2, she did a couple of things like on TV and stuff, but then she starred in Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, and so then that kind of led her into that comedy/romantic comedy genre that she was known for a while there throughout the 80s and into the 90s as well, I believe.
Yeah. And then she didn't return to horror until 1998 with Halloween H2O.
The one thing that with Jamie Lee Curtis in Terror Train, which, except for Halloween, really, in Prom Night, and then, well, essentially, I think probably in almost every other movie that she's been in since Terror Train, there always seems to be a shot of Jamie Lee Curtis in her bra.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Which there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it was kind of a strange, towards the end of Terror Train.
Yeah, there's a scene towards the end where she's getting attacked by the masked killer, and for whatever reason, he kind of momentarily rips her shirt open.
Right.
What's the point of that?
Right. Yep. Yeah, this was an interesting watch. I saw this movie one other time about 3 or 4 years ago. I rented it. I watched it again, and I remembered a little bit of it, and there was a few scenes I remembered, but I didn't remember it very well, so it was kind of like going in pretty new. totally forgot about the opening scene and like who the killer was and everything. I mean, it's pretty obvious who the killer is if you've ever watched a horror movie in the early 80s. You can figure it out pretty quickly, but
or if you're paying attention at all in this movie.
yeah, all you got to do is pay a little attention. So yeah, the start of this movie, basically, it's there's like a pre-med party. It's actually New Year's Eve. That's there's the hook into January. They're at this like bonfire. There's this geeky kind of strange kid. Jamie Lee Curtis kind of like tricks him into coming into the bedroom, and I guess like the main kid or med student Doc, he's like they're all playing a practical joke on this goofy kid, and so there's like this what looks like a woman laying in a bed, and she's kind of slumped over, and then this guy comes in, starts undressing, thinking he's going to get lucky, and Jamie Lee Curtis is like standing behind the bed, kind of talking, and he's thinking that that it's the woman laying in the bed, and he goes to get in the bed with her, and turns out that the woman is a cadaver, and freaks the guy out, and there's this really strange scene of him like twirling around.
Yeah, it's that opening scene is, like you had said, the ending to that opening scene is really weird when he's spinning around in that drapery stuff, and the way it was filmed and the way it was shot was kind of, I think, was meant to lead you to believe that he somehow strangled himself in it.
Okay.
At least that's kind of the feeling that I got. Like, oh yeah, he's weird and he's wrapping himself up into this thing, and then it turns in, because I mean that's how a lot of these horror movies started. All the way up until now, there's always not always, but there's a tragedy at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And so that's kind of the feel that I was kind of thinking of. The one thing that I will say, once they got past that, they got to where it's 3 years later, and there's this sorority and fraternity holding another Halloween, or not Halloween, holding a New Year's Eve party again. This time, they rented a train, which I'm not even sure if you can actually do. I don't know if you can rent a whole train. The one thing with renting a train is, if you're renting a train for a party, do you just go a certain distance and then stop and back up and go back to where you started from?
Yeah, that's funny. I didn't realize they rented it.
Well, they were the only ones on it, so they must have.
That's
They had to have. At least I'm assuming they rented it. I mean, it was like a costume party on the train,
and they had a magician on the train too,
which they didn't pay for, which again was weird.
David Copperfield playing the magician, which was kind of funny.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I watched the movie. I had no idea.
So basically, yeah, the killer is on the train with them. He actually, you see like one of them dies before getting on the train, and the killer gets on there with the costume. It's like a Groucho Marx mask and costume and all that. And so he's on the train. The killer sort of jumps from costume to costume, kills somebody, puts on their costume. And there's another like lizard kind of thing, that like an alien lizard type thing that one of the characters, Jackson is his name, he's disguised as, and so the killer wears that for a period of time. But so it's pretty much him popping people off on the train. And
so there was a couple of things with this movie that I thought were very unique. One is that even though this was, for the most part, relatively early in the slasher genre, the idea of placing it on a train was kind of a cool idea. Like, you have this movie on a train. And
yeah, I think so.
Once they got on the train, they were pretty much on the train. So it's kind of, what you would gather in this movie was that there was kind of the engine part of the car where the engineers were at, and then there was like the party car, and then there was like a bunk car, and then kind of like a lounge car. So like really, there's only like 3 different parts to this train, so they really had no place to go, which was really cool. And then the other thing with this movie is the one conductor of the train who's like this old man. He really was like kind of the star of the movie. You know, you had this like 55-year-old guy who was kind of the hero of the movie, and you really didn't see that. At least I don't really think you saw that up to that point. And then you didn't really see it again until maybe Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 when you had an older Dennis Hopper kind of playing the hero of the movie. So I thought that was kind of cool, even though, in my personal opinion, the movie itself was, even though there was a couple of cool aspects to it, the movie itself was kind of a little bit of a stinker.
Yeah.
It was very predictable. And it was very obvious what was going on, at least in my eyes. Even though there was the magician who you were kind of led throughout the movie to believe who was the one that was doing the killings, and it just so happened that everybody else thought that he was the one doing the killings. And then they would always do these close-ups of the mask. And I'm not 100% sure if they actually had David Copperfield, who you said was playing the magician, actually wear those masks. So when they did the close-ups of the mask, it actually looked like it was the magician's eyes in there, or if it was the guy that, you know, the person who ended up actually being the murderer once it got to the end of the movie, which, again, if you watch the movie and you pay attention, it's blatantly obvious who it most likely is throughout most of the movie. But to me, they didn't really look that much similar feature-wise.
Yeah.
So I almost half expect, if you actually really dug into it, if it would come out that it actually was David Copperfield wearing the mask the entire movie.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, because that was one of the things they always kept like kind of getting really close on the face, and then you would see his eyes, and it's almost every mask he had, like the eyes seemed to kind of be overcut. So like his eyebrows always showed, like they were kind of trying to give it away or something. Right. I don't know.
Yeah, I thought this movie, the kill scenes were pretty unmemorable. They were pretty lame. Like, I'm trying to even like go back and remember them. I mean, so you had like the first kill scene before they board the train. It's like guy gets a sword through his body and he's just kind of laying there dying. Then there was the lizard dude, Action Jackson. He was like, he just gets beat up in the bathroom, right?
Yeah, he gets like his head smashed into the mirror, and then
that's right.
The conductor comes in a couple minutes later and discovers the body. And it's one of those scenes where, you know, there's just blood and gore everywhere. And then, and then it was one of these iconic scenes like, oh my God, something happened. Come and look. And he brings everybody back with him. And they open the door, and, it's like 30 seconds later, and the body's gone. And there's no blood anywhere.
Right. Right.
The room was soaked in blood 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, it was that bathroom was like no vacancy for like a half hour, and everybody's trying to use that washroom. It's like for some reason that was the washroom they all wanted to use, and because the killer was in there like switching costumes and all that.
Yeah, it was weird.
And then the other kill was the girl. Like one of the main characters, his girlfriend, and I think she gets her throat slit, but we see it off screen. We just see like her dead already, laying there in the bunk. Then there was what was the other? And he gets decapitated, but you don't see that, right? It's like
right, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, he it's one of those things where you don't see what happened to him, and then there's a scene later on in the movie where his body is stashed. Again, the train conductor uncovers the body. He rolls out.
Right.
I think his body rolls out and then his head rolls out or something along those lines.
That's right.
But yeah, like you said, I mean, for the most part, a lot of the movie itself is really unmemorable. I mean, a big portion of the movie is these guys and girls partying on this train, just like dancing to this bad disco music.
Yeah. Yep.
Drinking and eating and if I remember right, the whole purpose of these fraternity/sorority parties is to get the members of the different groups to lose their virginity. If I remember right, that's what happened at the beginning, because they were all like wearing hats or something, or scarves or something, and they couldn't take them off until they got lucky.
Okay.
And then
I didn't fully catch that. Okay.
Yeah, and then because that's how they got the one guy, Kenny or whatever his name is, lured up into the room so he could have sex and no longer be a virgin. And then it turns out that it was the dead woman's corpse in the bed. And
right. Okay. Yeah, I think the movie for me got going, and oddly enough, it was like one of the scenes I actually remembered was the final kind of chase scene between the killer and Jamie Lee Curtis, and then the part where she locks herself in like the storage cage and he's trying to get in, and that part was, that was where to me, like, it was it was a bit entertaining and I was kind of into it, but like everything before that just was really slow. And the conductor, I thought he did just like his responses to things, like, so he sees the body and then he goes like kind of nonchalantly and goes and makes himself a cup of coffee or something and sits down next to the other guy that works on the train, and is like, "You're never going to believe what I saw," or whatever he said. It's just like, what? It's just like these really strange responses to what happened. And he kind of plays like the John Wayne hero type, and he's like sort of trying to keep everybody in line. And I don't know. I thought it was a pretty bad movie. What'd you think of the ending? When we find out who the killer is?
It was weird.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, the end of the movie was very weird. It was very anticlimactic for one thing.
Yeah.
But then, it was just weird.
It was weird. Yeah.
I can't even put anything else to it other than it was just weird.
And then they have to have the big kind of ending, like the real big theatrical thematic ending where the killer goes flying off a cliff, off the train and into a river. And that seemed like that was one movie. That was something that like they seemed to always do in like the 70s and early 80s, was like the final bad guy of the film would end up like having a really traumatic death where it usually fell off a cliff. Like I think of like Play Misty for me, when the female killer, Clint Eastwood pushes her off the cliff. I think of Dirty Harry. He shoots the guy off of the dock and he's falls into the stream. And it seemed like all those films back then, they always had that.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about when he did plunge from the train is, especially for the time when the body, well, I think it was supposed to land in the water, but it like clips the ice when it gets to the bottom. And I don't know if you caught this or not, but one of the shoes pops off.
I didn't catch it.
Of the dummy. And to me, that was like one of the most like, oh, that had to hurt, like scenes of the movie. But yeah, I mean, this movie, for me personally, this movie was very boring. And
yeah,
I don't know if I had ever seen this movie before we decided to do it for the show. I went to watch it last Saturday night, sat down and got all ready and had some popcorn and had a beer, and I remember up until the Doc character got killed, and then I woke up at about 1 o'clock in the morning on the couch. And so then I restarted it the following day and fast forwarded it to that scene and finished out the movie. And even though I had had a good 8-9 hours of sleep, it almost put me to sleep a second time. So
Nice.
It was not a very enjoyable movie. I mean, it's been a while since we've had a movie on this show that I think both of us would agree that it gets a thumbs down, but I'm guessing that this one from both of us gets a thumbs down for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go ahead with thumbs down. I do like early '80s horror movies, and I do like the kind of that era, that period of time for these movies. I'll typically kind of, even if the movie's not that good, if it kind of captures the feel of that era, I can kind of live with it, and I can say it's a pretty decent film. But for this one, I'm going to have to go with you with definitely the thumbs down. If you're looking for a Jamie Lee Curtis slasher film post Halloween, around that time when she was becoming known as a scream queen, I would go with Prom Night.
Oh,
over
for
this
sure.
one.
Yep.
I don't think it's a great movie, but it definitely is a better movie than this.
And it has a better bra scene.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't like to bash a Canadian horror movie.
So this has to be the first foreign movie that we've reviewed on this show that has been pretty much a stinker.
Yeah.
A giant turd.
It's too bad we're starting 2016 off this way.
Yeah, well, I blame it all on you. This was your idea.
It was my idea. Actually, I Googled horror movies with New Year's Eve plots, and this was in there, and I was like, oh yeah, Terror Train, okay. And then so...
Next year we're doing New Year's Evil.
Yeah, that was next on the list. I was actually thinking about that one. I never saw that.
I've never seen that one either, and I think that has the... Isn't the main character, the main villain in that movie, isn't he one of those... oh, yeah, it's that guy kind of guys. He's kind of in a lot of stuff. I'm not sure. One of the things I did want to mention real quick before we wrap stuff up with this movie is while I was watching this Saturday and Sunday, both, one of the things that I kept thinking of, this movie would be ripe for a remake. They should remake this movie and just kind of pick up the pace a little bit. And it turns out that they kind of tried to remake it in 2008. There was a movie that came out in 2008 called Train. I guess that movie was supposed to start out as a remake for Terror Train, but then instead of being a remake for Terror Train, I guess it kind of turned out to be more like a Hostel ripoff more than a Terror Train remake. From all the stuff I was reading on it, like it started off as a Train remake or Terror Train remake, and then turned out to be essentially a Hostel ripoff. And actually, I was reading one review on it where the guy was at one of the screenings for it at horror convention somewhere, and one of the audience members even asked the guy that wrote it or directed it or starred in it or something, so did you actually see Hostel before you made this movie? Or
Nice.
So yeah, we're starting off the year 2016. This is the first episode. We got a couple of things in the works. We're going to talk about hopefully later this month the upcoming another brand new movie The Boy.
Yeah. That's going to be another road trip for us.
Yeah, and we'll definitely try to maybe actually be able to squeeze these in. Hopefully, at least once every couple of months, if not even. Be really cool if we could do it once a month, but I don't think they actually come out with new horror movies that often.
Yeah, seems like they've slowed down a bit.
So we got the Boy in the pipe for this year. We're gonna be doing Creep Show.
Yeah.
And Monster Squad, probably sooner than later.
Yeah, and just to give you a little bit of an idea of the director's resume, Roger Spottiswoode, he also did the movie in 1992, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Oh, I did not know that. He also did Turner and Hooch.
Yeah, he did that. And then he did a James Bond movie, it looks like, Tomorrow Never Dies in 97.
Yeah, so he's lucky he got off the ground after making this piece of crap.
Yeah, it's too bad. I can't say that. Well, I don't think much could have saved this film. It was pretty doomed to begin with.
You throw Jamie Lee Curtis out there in her bra a couple more times, probably would have been okay.
It could have helped a little. But yeah, it just didn't work.
No, unfortunately not. So, all right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back in a couple of weeks. Until then, take it easy and avoid the trains, I guess.
And have a good New Year.